قاعد يدقني في أي حاجة. هو قاعد يضربني بطريقة ما كويس في كل زمن.
يا زول، ليه انت قاعد بتدق في مرة بتاعك؟ انت ما بتعرف انه الجريمة ضد النسوان والبنات ده جريمة ضد الإنسانية؟ إهانة لمرة بتاعك وبنتك ده حاجة ما كويس. وقف الدق والاغتصاب والعنف الجنسي ضد النسوان والبنات. مع بعض خلينا نطلع العنف على أساس النوع برا من جنوب السودان أسي.
Sounds of the Week on iRadio.
I'm urging these gossipers, this lobby group, please give the chance to president. He's the president of the people, he's not your president politician. You disturb us. Let president have his space to listen to the people. Let president have his space to listen to the voice of the voiceless. He will hear what people want, not from you. Because you advise president based on your political interest. And this will never benefit the country. But ajab bitasiya sin zolbak shugul wallahi nas de chaber kida kuta bugul lakin usma min chaber shunu fa nahna lissa natalib min siyasin please kali rais indu fursa yasma min chaber bilkani lano rais bas maradi rais furud ya in television rais furud yishuf yamal interaction ibn yadra bi facebook kan yishuf chab there shunu lakin to you are blocking president bakuli dua then ma yishuf aja chab and you are contributing to our suffering. This year, our raise another raise our annual to the Sudan, and we are going to do what I want to do.
Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, good afternoon. This is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. The governor of Eastern Equatoria State, Louis Lobong Lajore, says SPLAIO forces shot and killed the deputy police inspector of Torit County during an attack this morning. South Sudan has appealed to its regional neighbors to support lifting international sanctions and the arms embargo at the 9th summit of the heads of state of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region in Kinshasa, DR Congo. Religious leaders led by Cardinal Stephen Ameo and Primate Justin Badi met with Kenyan President William Ruto at the State House in Nairobi today, where the President reaffirmed Kenya's unwavering commitment to a peaceful and prosperous South Sudan. This is stories and more coming to in this news bulletin with me, LASUBA MEMO, and now the news in detail. The governor of Eastern Equatoria State, Louis Lobong Lajore, says SPLAIO forces shot and killed the deputy police inspector of Torit County during an attack this morning. According to an official statement from the governor, the first attack occurred at around 5 a.m. when SPLAIO fighters launched a raid on Torit town targeting the Torit military hospital. At the same time, another group of SPLAIO fighters advanced from Enyev and opened fire on the official vehicle of the Torit County Commissioner, killing a police captain who served as Deputy Inspector of Police for Torit County. Governor Lobong said the assault came just days after a November 17, 2025 ambush on a passenger vehicle traveling from Kapoita town to Napot Port, in which one civilian was killed. He condemned the attacks, describing them as a declaration of war against the government and the peace-loving people of Eastern Equatoria State. He said in a statement, and I quote, "These latest assaults amount to a declaration of war against the government and the peace-loving people of Eastern Equatoria State," end quote. The governor said that the attacks are part of what he calls a wider pattern of hostile activities by SPLAIO elements. He said similar attacks have been carried out along the Kapoita, Torit, Magui and Torit Juba roads, where citizens have lost lives and property, and in some cases children have been abducted. He added that SPLAIO fighters were also responsible for a deadly raid on an SSPDF military outpost in Enyev in May 2025, which killed an SSPDF soldier in another attack on September 25, 2025, when they raided the Kapoita National Security Office. The SPLAIO has not claimed responsibility for the latest attack or made any public statement. South Sudan has appealed to its regional neighbors to support lifting international sanctions and the arms embargo at the 9th summit of the heads of state of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region in Kinshasa, DR Congo. South Sudan's presidential envoy for the Great Lakes region, Ambassador Dr. Peter Morgan, said he successfully lobbied neighboring states during the summit on November 9th. He added that the appeal was formally recognized and included in the International Conference on the Great Lakes region final declaration.
We have requested the member states of the Great Lakes region to help the government of South Sudan on the issue of lifting of the sanctions, which also has been included into the declaration, and the Secretariat of the Great Lakes region has been directed by the chairperson of the new chairperson of the Great Lakes region, plus other members, that the Secretariat in Bujumbura will go ahead and lobby the international community to lift the sanctions and arms embargo on South Sudan.
Morgan said the summit ended with a clear directive to turn the declaration into concrete action. Since 2025, the UN Security Council has imposed a sanctions regime on South Sudan, including asset freezes and travel bans on individuals deemed responsible for fueling the conflict. In July 2018, the Council adopted Resolution 2428, which imposed a mandatory arms embargo on the country. Under the embargo, it prohibited the supply or transfer of weapons, ammunition, military vehicles, and related equipment to South Sudan unless approved under very limited conditions. The sanctions regime, including the arms embargo, has been renewed repeatedly. Religious leaders led by Cardinal Stephen Amell and Primate Justin Badi met with Kenyan President William Ruto at the State House in Nairobi today, where the president reaffirmed Kenya's unwavering commitment to a peaceful and prosperous South Sudan. Writing on his official Facebook page after the meeting, President Ruto said that the South Sudan Council of Churches briefed him on the political and security situation back home. According to him, the religious leaders urged renewed efforts toward peace, inclusive political dialogue, the constitution-making process, and preparations for the December 2026 elections. The Kenyan head of state said South Sudan's stability remains critical to the region's progress. He stated, and I quote, "Kenya is committed to supporting all regional efforts that promote peace, stability, and democratic governance. We stand firm in our belief that a peaceful and prosperous South Sudan is essential for the progress of our region, and we will continue to work with partners to advance dialogue, nation building, and long-term stability." End quote. President Ruto said Kenya will continue to collaborate with all stakeholders to ensure South Sudan remains on the path of reconciliation, unity, and democratic progress for the benefit of its people and the wider region. Nairobi is currently the host of the Kenya-led South Sudan Tumaini Peace Initiative, which was adjourned in February this year. The talks aimed at integrating opposition factions excluded from the 2018 peace agreement have remained on hold since February 7 despite broad regional support. Originally designed to bring together South Sudan's fragmented political and military actors, the Tumaini Initiative sought to address long-standing instability and help guide the country toward lasting peace and democratic governance. Although the process has faced setbacks and political disagreements, mediators say the vision and hope behind the initiative remained alive. This is iRadio News. An African Union official says South Sudan is at a critical point in its peace-building journey and has urged citizens to see themselves as one people in a state of allowing ethnic, social, or political divisions to separate them. Dr. Prosper Ado, a senior political officer at the African Union Mission in South Sudan, warned that divisions driven by conflict, mistrust, and personal interest could reverse the progress made since the signing of the revitalized peace agreement. He said the Nasir incident in March 2025 affected the implementation of the peace deal and disrupted the work of several institutions, mechanisms responsible for driving the process forward. Dr. Ado emphasized that disagreements are normal, but stressed that leaders should avoid violence and resolve their differences through dialogue. He called on both signatories and non-signatories to the peace agreement to engage in open dialogue, drop preconditions, and explore ways to improve the lives of all citizens. Dr. Ado made the remarks in Juba yesterday during the launch of a two-day high-level political parties dialogue under the theme Building Trust and Confidence Among Political Parties Through Dialogue, Collaboration and Engagement.
South Sudan is at a critical stage in its peace-building process where all citizens in this polity must consider themselves as one and not allow ethnic, social or political differences or even other influences, be it internal or external, to divide them. This is very important given that the impact of these divisions through conflicts, mistrust and self-interest has the tendency to reverse years of gains made since the brokering of the RXS and its implementation thus far. The goal of the RXS is to help the country address root causes of conflict and prevent or prepare the country to hold elections and transition peacefully into a stable, peaceful, and strong democracy in this region and beyond.
Bor State Hospital in Jonglei State had officially resumed operations after being closed for 2 weeks due to a strike by medical workers. A state official has said the hospital shut down last week after staff locked its gates in protest over the transfer of several medical workers to facilities outside Bor town. Speaking to iRadio this morning, Dr. Rieth Kong, Director General at Jonglei State Ministry of Health, said the hospital began partial operations on Monday evening and continued this morning, offering only essential services such as the outpatient department. Dr. Kong said the striking medical workers have not yet called off their strike, but the hospital has reopened partially.
Yeah, the state hospital is resumed this morning, partially, not yet complete, but it has resumed. Today morning, they are open partially yesterday evening, but today also partially resumed. The OPD is partially, not completely completely. They did not expect to go to where they were transferred, and it was police who came yesterday and told them that it should open today.
Last week, the medical workers told iRadio that the facilities where they had been transferred lack proper funding and are located in insecure areas. Before international news, the Female Journalist Network has called for greater representation of women in the news, saying women's voices are crucial for meaningful governance. Deputy Chairperson Leila Osman said the media needs to do more to promote gender-sensitive reporting, stating that inclusive coverage helps drive policy change. She spoke during a training on gender-sensitive reporting aimed at raising awareness on the importance of featuring more women's perspectives in the media. Leila said the lack of women's representation remains a major internal challenge within the industry and shows limited understanding among journalists about gender-responsive reporting standards. She stressed that giving space to women in news coverage can influence policy decisions.
So it's very important for us to bring these women. The challenge is that there's need of a lot of awareness, even among us as journalists. We still tend to take this slow. Most journalists are not yet aware, so whenever they go for those stories, they tend to be one-sided. Most especially looking at the male aspect in most of the stories, you find that the female are basically not either, if they're represented, maybe few. But in most cases, you find that it's mostly the men that dominate the media industry. Because without agency, there will not be policy change. Because policy goes hand in hand with agency. Because when you put the story out as a media practitioner, you're influencing policy. When they get to hear about these issues happening deep down in the villages, they get to, get solutions. And these solutions come through policies. So this is what I have to say.
For his part, Media Mentors Project Coordinator Dew Williams said the training focuses on strengthening gender-sensitive reporting and tackling common problems such as stereotyping and prejudicial language. Dew said journalists must learn to recognize and eliminate gender, tribal, and communal stereotypes in their work.
Issues of stereotypes, calling people names, because they come from this community or this grouping or this gender, is something that is so common in the media. And of course, as a country, we've seen a little bit of reduction in terms of gender stereotype or tribal stereotypes in a way we used to see in the past when there's a news about cattle raiding in Jonglei State, we would say the Murle raided cattle. I think that has been one of the biggest news headlines that used to come out in the news, especially in the print media, and of course in most of also the broadcast media. But of course, it could not be a whole tribes that must have carried out the cattle raiding. But if you can say a use from people, for example, just to say a location, that make a lot of sense when it comes to media, because you can stereotype the community.
This is iRadio News. Now to the international scene. Here is Darlington Moses.
Thank you so much, LASUBA MEMO. Thank you so much, LASUBA MEMO. In the stories making headlines in the African region and beyond, a French energy company is facing war crimes allegations which it denies over a massacre near its multi-billion-dollar international gas project in northern Mozambique in 2021. In a complaint filed with French prosecutors, a human rights group accused Total Energy of complicity in war crimes, including the torture and executions of dozens of civilians held by local security forces in a cluster of shipping containers at its facility. Total has always denied responsibility for the actions of government troops and related security forces who were involved in guarding the Afangi Peninsula gas refinery development. Elsewhere, every company would be affected if the AI bubble were to burst, the head of Google's parent firm Alphabet has told the BBC. Speaking exclusively to the BBC News, Sundar Pichai said while the growth of artificial intelligence AI investment had been an extraordinary moment, there was some irrationality in the current AI boom. It comes amid a fear in Silicon Valley and beyond of a bubble as the value of AI tech companies has soared in recent months and companies spent big on the bargaining industry. And finally, former Harvard President Larry Summers has said he will step back from public commitments after his emails with disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein were made public. Emails released by Congress last week show Summers, a former U.S. Treasury Secretary, communicated with Epstein until the day before the Purdue Files 2019 arrest for sex trafficking minors. On Tuesday, House members are expected to vote on releasing all files related to the late sex offender. This is iRadio News, and back to you, LASUBA MEMO.
Thanks, Darlington Moses, and back to you again to take us to the sports arena.
In the world of sport, starting with some great headlines in the African region. Ethiopia has taken a 2-0 lead over South Sudan in the first half of their ongoing match at Peka Deka Stadium in Addis Ababa. This match is in the Group A fixtures of the CECAFA Under-17 Championship qualifiers. With this scoreline, Ethiopia is set to top the group with 6 points, while South Sudan remains on 1 point. President Donald Trump has announced the U.S. embassies will give visa appointment priority to travelers with tickets to the 2026 World Cup. The FIFA prioritized appointment scheduling system will allow World Cup ticket holders with long wait times to opt for FIFA for a prioritized interview, Trump said at the White House on Monday. Ticket holders for the tournament set for next June and July in U.S., Canada and Mexico will not be automatically granted to tourist visas, said Secretary of State Marco Rubio. England manager Thomas Tuchel would speak to every player left out of his squad to explain his choices and lay out what they need to do to make it to the next summer's World Cup. Attacking midfielder Jack Grealish and right back Trent Alexander-Arnold were among those not called up for months qualifiers against Serbia and Albania. England defeated Albania 2-0 on Sunday to finish their qualification campaign at the top of Group K with 8 wins from as many matches and without conceding a goal. And finally, Barcelona will return to their iconic Nou Camp home after more than 2 years when they face Athletic Club in La Liga this weekend. The stadium will reopen after a partial renovation with a reduced capacity of 45,401 for the match on Saturday 22nd November, 15:15 GMT. Barca last played an official game at the Nou Camp on 28th May 2023 against Real Mallorca before the venue was closed for renovations. Work began in June 2023 at a cost of about 1.1 billion euros with the goal of modernizing the stadium and expanding its capacity to 105,000, making it one of the largest grounds in the world. This is all in the world of sport, and back to you, LASUBA Memo.
Thank you, Darlington Moses. This is iRadio News, and to end this bulletin, here's a recap of the headlines. The governor of Eastern Equatorial State, Luis Lobong Lajore, says Speleme Spelayo Fosi shot and killed the deputy police inspector of Torrid County during an attack this morning. South Sudan has appealed to its regional neighbors to support lifting international sanctions and the arms embargo at the 9th summit of the heads of state of the International Conference on the Great Lakes region in Kinshasa, DR Congo. And religious leaders led by Cardinal Stephen Ameo and Primate Justin Badi met with Kenyan President William Ruto at the State House in Nairobi today, where the president reaffirmed Kenya's unwavering commitment to a peaceful and prosperous South Sudan. That's the end of iRadio News. If there is a story or an event you'd like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message at +211 925 287 870. It's also a WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba, like our Facebook page iRadio, subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic at 12:30. I am LASUBA Memo. Thank you for listening.